We're going to call the meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. Welcome to the TDLR Advisory Board on Barbering meeting, October 1st, 2018. This morning we want to do a call to order. We want to have our roll call. I want Ms. Christine, can you read our roll call out for me today?
Mr. Withers?
Here.
Ms. Hatch?
Here.
Mr. Jemison?
Present.
Ms. Wasser?
Present.
Mr. Bowens?
Present.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to approve the minutes. So everybody can take some time to look at them.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Thank you.
We need to vote.
We all need to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we forward the minutes. Okay. At this time, do we have any public comments? No? You sure? All right. Welcome, sir. Okay. Since there's no public comments, we'll move to staff reports. At this time, we'll have licensing division.
Hi, good morning, board members. My name is Erica Rodriguez. I'm a team lead for the Barber Licensing Division. I'm going to be providing the report today on behalf of my supervisor, Joyce Hennington. I have provided you with our statistical report. Although the statistical report does not reflect the Barber student permits that were issued from August 1st, 2018 through September 28, 2018, and the number for those student permits was 1,006 student permits issued. August and September are our highest volume of student permit applications, so we have been extremely busy those months. We still do have some applications currently in office that we're processing and approving. I have also placed the new 2018 Barber Rulebook on your podium.
Yes.
See.
So I'll show that picture.
So those Barber books will be going out in the mail soon. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. That does conclude my report. Thank you.
Did y'all pay my son for being on this cover?
Is that your son? Can I have his autograph?
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
I was going to say, I object because I had a picture in the old book, but that's okay.
You object to my son?
Well, if they're replacing him with me, I mean, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up will be Customer Service Division.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Tuan Nguyen. I'm one of the customer service managers for this program. Since the last time we met, it looks like we had a slight decrease in stats in June and July. And then around August, stats became a little bit normal and average again. Since the last time we met as well, we had 6 separations in the customer service division in terms of staff and employee. We had one of our customer service rep, embedded service reps that actually retired. Another one of our quality training and performance analysts got transferred to DIR. She took a promotion over at that agency. During that period, we ended up hiring 7 more customer service reps, and we're in the middle of currently interviewing for our new quality training and performance analysts. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enforcement Division?
Chairman, Commissioners, excuse me, Chairman, board members. A little,
Thank
little,
you.
little
Thank
early
you.
with the errors. So as you know, TDLR is a very consumer-oriented, results-focused agency, and with that, and that extends to every aspect of our activities, including the shtick that I make you sit through every report. So with that in mind, I've had the material submitted to a peer review to ensure its quality level, and I'm sorry to say that the results were disappointing. The two primary categories of material that I was about to present today, the first was my deteriorating health, which unfortunately did test very poorly. The only anecdote that even extended to a positive rating was that my kid gave me a virus. The virus gave me a full-length, stunning evening-length rash.
Wow.
The rash required antibiotics that tore up my mouth to such a degree that eating a salad with pepper in it transported me to, let me see here, a world composed entirely of pain, and which was disturbing not just to me, but to the waitstaff at Jack Allen's. And the other category of material, which was categorized as my terrible decisions and the consequences thereof, was again negatively received. The primary material was that when I went to a showing of Jaws on the water, which was where the audience was situated in lifeboats to watch sci-fi adventure movie Jaws, I did not know that there were divers stationed underneath the water to grab people during the scary parts. And when the shark popped out of the water for the first time, I screamed like a little girl and threw my keys and glasses into the water. So the only other note of that note in that category was also poorly received as implausible that my kid is clowning me on Instagram about my haircut. So with that in mind, I think it's just best that we move on to the,
Thanks for that.
as you can see, the barbering program, while continuing to be #1 in our hearts, is one of the smaller programs, and that is reflected upon in the statistic categories that are in front of you today. About 7% of cases opened, 8% of cases resolved, 11% of the agreed orders. Though I should point out that although only the barbering licensing class reflects only 1% of the penalties assessed, 11% was collected, and that shows a degree of compliance from the barbering class that we wish would extend to other licensees that we regulate. I think it's important at this time that I say the thing that I do every advisory board meeting, which is enforcement's goal is not to punish. We are not punitive. We don't have criminal jurisdiction. We don't. What we want to do primarily is to bring respondents into compliance, and in order to, the best way for us to do that is generally through an agreed negotiated settlement. But there are a variety of ways that the department resolves cases, and I think the best way to illustrate that is, again, with the summary of cases that I put in front of you today. As you can see, the first of the cases is notable not really for the penalty assessed, but just for the nature of the allegation. A cosmetologist using straight razors. This is just to emphasize that the distinction between cosmetologists and barber is real, and we do regulate it. The second case is just, again, a standard violation, failure to cooperate, which we always prosecute, and allowing an unlicensed individual. I only emphasize this case because due to prior violations, the penalty was substantially increased to $3,500. The third case represents the method of case resolution, default resolution, which is we give them notice of the allegations, they don't respond, and we win. This is not our favorite method of case resolution, simply because we don't get compliance because we never heard from the respondent, and we don't receive any penalties because these are essentially paper judgments. However, in this case, Blessed Barber College was essentially a criminal organization that existed to defrauding not just individuals, but also other governmental agencies who had paid for students' tuition. Due to the heat basically placed by our investigators on this, I guess, business, it folded. And of course, they were fly by night. We never found them, but they've at least stopped existing as an ongoing criminal organization. The final case is, excuse me. Yeah, and the second to last case is just unlicensed activities, which I believe sets a record for the number of unlicensed activities ever found, 4 separate instances. And the final case is not a method of case resolution that I'm familiar with, which is as it's a criminal history review, which is dealt with by 2 able prosecutors other than myself. But I just brought it to your attention to show that licenses can be denied on the basis of not just fraud, but also criminal conduct. And in this case, it was exhibiting the deadly weapon and threatening someone with imminent bodily injury, and that the commission ultimately accepted the administrative law judge proposal for revocation. That's all for me. Do you have any questions that I might have?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, how is this determined? I mean, license holders aren't just investigated for criminal, convictions.
True.
Somebody turned them in, somebody reported
Oh, I know. I see what you're. Are you asking like how exactly we find out about these things?
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm getting a little outside of my area of that cases that I deal with, but I think I can answer that question. Upon renewal, I don't know if you've seen this. When you fill out your renewal application, there's a have you been convicted of felony? If they put no, whether they put yes or no, we check it out. And sometimes those renewals occur. Sometimes, the actions based on a lie that they hadn't been convicted occur after the license was renewed. I think in this case we actually got him at the time of renewal, at the time of his renewal application. But essentially, we perform a criminal background check on every individual that submits a renewal or application license with us. At that time, we run a check with DPS, find if they've got priors, if they do have priors, and if they fit into the categories of fitness, honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, and other other considerations that we like to keep in mind when we issue licenses. Then we decide whether action is going to be necessary. And threatening someone with imminent bodily injury is not a person that we want to be licensed, at least not at this time. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Or okay. Oh, was there anything else? Oh, yeah.
Are you able to divulge the city where this Blessed Barber College?
I can get that. Yeah, no, I can't get that information for you. I don't remember it offhand. I think it was I want to say the Houston area, but I'll make a note and get that back to you. Was there anything else? Oh, yes.
Sorry, Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel. When you guys ask questions and stuff, can you identify yourselves?
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Anyone else have any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You had a question?
Chris, great job and good choice of material.
All right, Education and Examination Division. Nice hair.
Good morning, Chair and Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Admas. I'm with TDLR's Education and Examination Division. I apologize, but my series of unfortunate events this morning consisted of bad hair day and a questionable choice in footwear earlier. So I don't have. I am in compliance.
Do that.
So we'd like to start off our report by introducing a new member to our team. As you know, our agency is growing, and so our division is growing. So we've added some more strength, another superstar to our team. Her name is Kayla Potter, and she's in the back there.
All right, Kayla. Welcome.
She's the baby of our group, but she's already learning a lot, so
There you go.
please welcome
Welcome
her.
up.
Next on our report is the practical examination. So after further review and a few tests with our education work group, we're going to go ahead and postpone the launch of the practical examination, go live, the revised practical examination for Barber to September 1, 2019. We will be more than willing, to come out with all of the summits. We'll come out, do open houses just to make sure everybody's comfortable. CIB still stands. It gives you a little bit more time to prepare the students. It gives us a little bit more time to explore the model mannequin options for the candidates and make sure that we have, our subject matter experts have, reviewed all of these practical examinations to make sure that everything is up to par for our candidates going forward. And finally, on the report here, we've got some statistics. Another thing I'd like to also add is, as your education liaison, in order to prep for session, we are going to, I'm trying to put it so it doesn't sound in a bad way. I'm going to put off some of my travel as far as school visits, just so that I can be around for session to help out the agency in any way I can. I will still be available to, maybe association meetings, because those, I can touch a larger group of the industry that way. But for the most part, at least until, maybe after session summer, I will go ahead and just stay grounded here in Austin to provide my support. I am here for you, for the industry. If you guys need any questions, you can email me, call me still, and I'll be able to provide any questions or answers to your questions that you may have regarding, schools and credit hours or clock hours or things to prepare for your next inspection. I am here for you. But that concludes my report, so if you have any questions. No?
Anyone?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Regulatory Program Management Division.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marinelle LaFleur, and I'll be giving the staff report for the Regulatory Program Management. That's our new name from compliance.
I see.
Yes, it's a mouthful. Elizabeth Bettis and I participated in the PSI Barber examination reviews in June, August, and September of this year. We also represented the agency at 2 conferences held in July. One was for the Foundation Advancement Careers and Technical Education, which was held in Galveston. The other conference that we attended was the Texas Industrial Vocational Association that was held in Irving. In September, we attended the Armstrong McCall World's Fair here in Austin. We assisted with various questions regarding license renewal, the agency's human trafficking initiative, continuing education requirements, and provided guidance to individuals as it relates to TDLR laws and rules. Facebook and Twitter was also shared. We continue to assist enforcement, field operations during investigations and inspections, as well as addressing any daily questions and emails from licensing and customer service. Since our last meeting, we have had no personnel changes. We still have everyone here. Our coming trade show will be the Texas State Association of Beauty Culture League, which will be held in Beaumont October 7th through 9th, and this is their 74th annual convention. This will be 74 years straight. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I have a question.
Yes,
Jenny
ma'am.
Hatch. The Barber curriculum statistics, the curriculum approvals issued, are there any curriculum approvals that are there any curriculum issued that are denied?
That is actually going to be education and examination.
sorry.
So
That was,
Rebecca can come up and help me answer
The
that.
name changes.
That's okay.
yeah, she was in that one.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rebecca. I'm education and exam. What we do is we follow to make sure that everything matches 82-120. And if there's anything that is not, then our staff works with the schools to make sure that they are on task so that they're not completely outright denied.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Just wanted to see y'all up there together. All right, thank y'all very much.
Good job, Marinelle.
All right. Field Inspection Division.
Good morning, Board. My name is Julianne Crocker. I'm the lead facilitator for the Field Inspections Division.
Awesome.
I'm here for Tanya Guthrow, our director. So what you'll see in front of you, we present our most common violations, and please bear in mind, these are not the same as what enforcement sees. Some of these can be corrections-only violations. Some of them deal with safety and sanitation, and a few are administrative, if you look at that. We've added a new section, and this is the top violations that we see with our school inspections. So since we transferred schools back over to the Field Inspections Division, we're now able to track these for you. So we have added that, and we're working on getting that added to the website as well. I'd also like to point out that in fiscal year 2018, we had a whirlwind of what we call mini salon, mini shop inspections. And we visited 86 mini salon or like gallery areas in August with almost over 4,000 inspections. And so that was a lot of work we put together. But it really helps us when we're able to get all of these facilities done all at once when they're located so closely together. We have had some personnel updates. I'd like to congratulate Fernando Reyes on being promoted to Field South Region Inspector. South Region Manager.
Okay.
And also like to congratulate Ulysses Ocio and Juan Munoz for being selected as our new liaisons. So they join
Excellent.
Sean O'Neill in that role.
Excellent.
And then on September 17th, we welcomed 4 brand-new inspectors, and I would like to recognize that one of them is here in the room,
Okay.
Mr. James McEachran.
All right.
And then we also, James is out of the San Antonio area. And then we have 2 inspectors in the DFW area, and that's James Turner and Lucretia Wells. And 1 in the Houston area, and that's Nina Smith.
Nina. Okay.
And then we also provided for you our inspection statistics for the program. So if you have any questions, that concludes my report. No? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, executive office.
Mr. Chairman, board members, first of all, thank you for your service. We appreciate it. You coming down and being involved in this, it's important to have your voices recognized. Good to see you, Ms. Bowens. You're going to get a 3-part harmony over here from exec in the presentation. I'm going to turn over to Nick, and then Nick will turn over to Carla, and then she'll turn it back over to me. So we'll let the music play.
All right, let's do it.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about our outreach,
Yes.
including your website and the traffic associated with your webpage. Over the past 6 months, the Barbers website had 127,718 page views.
Wow.
That's an average of 690 page views a day. So it's been very busy. And we also know that barbers spend a lot of time on their feet, and this number will bear that out. A whopping 69% of those that accessed your site did so from a smartphone, another 4% from a tablet. That's 73% that accessed the site from a mobile device. That compares to just 27% that did so from a personal computer. The top reasons for visiting the site were led by barber exam data and online licensing. I also want to remind you about our social media efforts. We are on Facebook and Twitter, so please check that out to keep up with TDLR news and events. And also we have a group of more than 70,000 subscribers that receive various email blasts pertaining to this program. And if someone's not receiving those notices, would like to, we encourage them to go to the website and subscribe there, and they will start receiving them immediately. And also wanted to give a shout out to our Doug Van Pelt for redesigning not only the barber book, but also the cosmetology book. And he's done a great job of giving our material a fresh look. So I want to thank him as well.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today. As we always say, thanks for your service to Texans. Carla James, TDLR, wanted to briefly go over our legislative appropriations request with you. Every agency in the state has to submit a 2-year budget prior to the legislative session, and we submitted ours this summer. The highlights of that were our exceptional items where we are requesting additional budget authority from the legislature. Our first exceptional item is to create a single licensing system. Currently, we work off of 9 licensing systems. And as you get reports from the customer service and licensing divisions, not a reminder, but a quick note, they work off of all of those 9 systems every day. So we've requested budget authority to create a single system. The second thing that we've requested is some staff to address human trafficking in the state. We have a unique ability to go into to our licensing businesses and inspect, and when we notice odd things, to be able to report those. And as we see those situations, we realize that we need to have additional staff to address that. So that staff would work with local law enforcement. We would not prosecute the human trafficking. We would be a conduit of information to local law enforcement. So that's our second exceptional item request. And I'll lump the third and fourth together. During last session, every agency was asked to reduce their budget by 4%, and we did that for a loss of 14 positions in the agency. We are requesting half of that back. So we are requesting additional resources in our field inspections, enforcement, customer service, and licensing divisions to try to get us back up to where we were before last session. Actually, it won't be where we were. We're asking for half back. So we will begin our session in January and begin those discussions with the legislators about the needs and how the needs will benefit Texas if they do provide those additional resources.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I want to touch bases very quickly on the strategic plan and then also talk about some recent happenings and studies performed by the Texas Education Agency regarding cosmetology and barbering in public schools. So in regard to strategic plan, there are a few of our strategic initiatives that will impact the barbering program. One is we're looking at Chapter 51 to create a process where we will be able to extend inspections, but also keep inspections tight. We sought this last legislative session. It would keep the inspection frequency for schools at the same rate that it is. It would extend it for barber establishments that have not had problems, basically. When we looked at the data, 95% of the barber school or barber shops had no violations. And so that 2-year frequency doesn't make sense. It's going to allow, when Julianne talked about the numbers and the efforts they've made, they've done an incredible job. I think they are some 6,000 to 7,000 more inspections performed last fiscal year than we have previously, than we've ever done. 10,000, I'm sorry, 10,000, she corrected me, 10,000 more inspections. The effort's there. But when you think about Texas and our growth, we're not going to be able to have enough employees that keep up with the pace. So you have to target your resources to those that really have the highest risk associated with it. The schools, just because they're touching our students on the front end, those shops that specialize in providing manicuring services, when you cut skin or you break skin, it raises the risk and sanitational issues up a little bit higher. So that will be one that we're seeking, and that's going to be across the board for all of our inspection-related programs. We're going to identify those that should stay at once every 2 years, twice a year, once a year, and really try to give some space to our inspection folks. The other one is the practical examination. When you look at the barbering program, for the Class A barber examination, it's about 93% of the folks are passing the exam. That's a high pass rate. Excited about it and proud of it. We've looked at some areas and said, is this an area where we can turn that over to certain qualified schools to perform the practical examination? So the student doesn't have to schedule with us. They don't have to go to one of the 8 sites that we have around the state. We feel confident in working with the advisory board, and if the legislature agrees with it, we'll be able to come up with a process, and maybe it will look like barber schools that have had an 85% pass rate on their written examination have demonstrated that they're able to teach the information correctly. Those folks may be eligible. Obviously, they're going to go through some training and have consistency. But that's just another way of trying to figure out how can we get our agency out of the process and try to streamline things. I'm excited about that, and I know people are nervous about that, which is what makes me excited about it. I like pushing the envelope just a little bit. I will promise you that the language that will be introduced will run the same course as any legislative bill. It's going to be introduced, it'll go to the House, it'll go to the Senate, it has to pass those chambers, and then when it's effective, we'll have the ability to develop rules to implement it, so it wouldn't be overnight. It's not going to happen next week, it's not going to happen on January 1st. If it passes, it'll have a September effective date. From then, we'll start building rules, and it may be January of 2020 before it kicks in. So it's not going to be a quick thing if it happens, and we'll just see how the legislature, if they embrace the concept. The last thing I'd want to mention is that with TDLR taking on the regulation of the massage program in November, there are a number of combo situations where you have barbering and cosmetology services shared at the same place at massage establishments taking place. We're looking at trying to do a dual license, just like we did with cosmetology, so you had barbering and cosmetology in the same place. If there is a opportunity to allow for those entities to coexist, let me make this very clear, each entity is going to meet its specific requirements. So don't think that it's going to be a barber, massager, at the chair. Oh, we've got my head kicked back and I'm getting a shave and I'm getting a massage. Completely separate functionality. But it would allow that owner to have one license and to have one inspection cycle and to have one expiration date. It's not going to change the requirement that that establishment, when it's providing massage services, would 100% meet those requirements. And when they're providing barbering services, would 100% meet those requirements. They're going to have a separate room. They're going to have all those things that make it separate and work the way it does today. So it's just a matter of trying to save cost and go with some of the efficiency on that. Those items, and we're going to get a copy of the strategic initiatives for you, but they are found on page 27, page 28, and page 29. So when we bring that out to you as you're leaving, you'll be able to follow those quickly. The last thing I want to talk about is there's been, I would dare say, the highest number of articles we have tracked for any one issue. And it was a conversation relating to the Texas Education Agency exploring the possibility of changing its vocational school mix. Basically, they set up a rubric that said if you have a salary of X thousand dollars and above, if you have a demand of Y, then we're going to continue to have you in vocational schools or explore the possibility. Barbering and cosmetology fell below in the salary aspect of that. I don't know if you're familiar with barbers or cosmetologists, but they're not shy people at all. I'm pretty confident, given the series of articles, the intensity of response. I think TA is reconsidering that significantly. We had an opportunity to go meet with them, and it was Carla and Bibi and Rebecca and I met with the Texas Education Agency just to get a handle on, what are you doing, what are you thinking?
Thank you.
And we were able to share with them some of our thoughts. I shared with them warnings. I did. Mr. Leonard, I said, there's a lot of them out there. These are kids. It's one of the things that encourages the folks and these kids to stay in school. Sometimes it's the only thing that brings them there.
That's right.
For the cosmetology programs, we're looking at 10,264 high school students in the 193 schools. Do you really want to touch that? I think I said something to the effect of, I wouldn't want to change that. I think that that's been heard.
Okay.
The lieutenant governor has come out twice very firmly in saying that he supports the barbering and cosmetology education in high schools, made it very clear that he supports it. I got it. I think anyone who can read or listen will understand that the legislature, at least from the Senate side, the leadership said, you don't want to do it. I think there were at least 2 of the State Board of Education board members who made it very clear that they were not aware of it, they did not support it, and if it came in front of them, they would not approve it. And so I think there's been some adjustment in that philosophy. And I'm available to answer, we are available to answer any questions you may have
Very
in our
good.
reports.
First of all, we want to thank you for those reports. That was awesome. And I don't know, is everybody aware of that, of what was taking place with the TA? Is everybody aware of what was happening?
Yeah, I definitely got some email on that, and I want to thank you and TDLR for standing up for our vocational training in our industry, which is very important. And especially in these days when we're talking about, on a federal level, supporting more vocational training around the country. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It was not hard
Yeah.
to say I wouldn't do that.
Right.
It was the easiest conversation I've had in years.
Yeah, it was amazing, man. The phone just started blowing up at my house, so
Yeah.
I started getting calls like crazy to get on TV. I was like, whoa. So I did a couple of interviews, so I
Did a good
appreciate
job.
you, Mr. Francis, taking that lead on that.
You did a great
And
job.
the board definitely agrees and supports with that. So, anybody else?
Ron Weathers, one of the newest board members. Hello, everyone. Brian, exactly, I would like to thank you again. And I found that to be very odd, especially with the barbering just now coming on the scene as being an option for high school students. So I will say thank you again. I do have a question earlier concerning the length of time that was going to be given between inspections. For schools, not for schools, but for schools and shops that are doing well in certain areas. If you lengthen the time, will we just rely on those statistics staying in good standards? Do we rely on customers complaining? And if there are an increase in complaints, will that every 2 year for barbers shops, will that go back into effect?
That's a
if you
great
lengthen-
question, and the answer to it is, if we see a change, so if again, I always like to talk about the legislative process as a journey. And if anyone's I'm a track fan, so I love track and field.
Okay,
We literally have not even gotten the blocks on this thing.
okay.
We're over in the warm-up pit, and we're doing the thing, staring down the competition, like you don't want any of this, and doing little handoffs and all that stuff. But if it completes that journey, and we find out a year after it's gone in place that the numbers have changed, we have the ability, because the language
Okay.
is going to be at least, and so we have the ability to take it back this way.
Right.
It would not be a set, can't do it more often. So, yeah, we would be able to adjust it with the
I
same
understand.
data.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to have a discussion. Well, Ms. Colleen's going to talk about item F. We're not going to have a discussion on it.
Good morning, board members. Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel for the Barbering Board.
Good morning.
So, the Texas Government Code, Section 2001.039, requires that state agencies review their rules every 4 years to determine if those rules the reasons for initially adopting those rules still exist. So all of our rules are on staggered 4-year terms, so we can review them. Section 51 on the Occupations Code and Chapter 1603 and 1601 require the commission to adopt rules to implement each program, so the barbering program. So we have Texas Administrative Rules 16 TAC, Chapter 82, that provides the details for the barbering program that are not found in statutes. So specifically, the barber rules provide for the tuition protection account, details for licensing, specific health and safety standards. They design the standard for the curriculum and establish fees for the specific program. In August of this year, just this past month, it's October. 2 months ago, August 24th, we published a notice of intent to review 16 TAC 82 in the Texas Register. The public comment period for those rules ran until September 24th. We received a total of 3 comments, mostly about education and curriculum issues. Those comments have been given to our education and curriculum work group, and now we do this in 2 phases. So we do phase 1, are the rules still necessary? And then we'll go before the commission to re-adopt them so that we can continue to work. And then the second phase of it is that we'll take those comments and any of the current rules that we're working on. I know Rebecca mentioned some mannequin model conversation, and I know we've been doing a deep dive into the rules about whether or not some of the requirements are still needed. So that will come in our phase 2 as we go through more in depth into the rules. I do need to note that one of the comments did suggest some legislative changes, and those will need to be done by the legislature, and so not all of the comments are possible by rule.
Colleen, if I
yes,
could
sir.
interject just
Sure.
for a second. Brian Francis, one of the things I noticed in reviewing the comments that were received for the rule review for cosmetology,
Yes.
there was some extensive recommendations and thoughts regarding the sanitation provisions. And obviously, those could spill over into the barbering world, and in fact, I thought they were really good. I thought it was a more contemporary approach. It's something that's probably long overdue. And so, Mr. Chairman, I think we will look to having some joint discussions on sanitation, because we're not going to have provisions that are different in cosmetology and different in barbering. That's just not going to happen. And we're going to keep it the same way you've had, where they follow parallel. But I think it would really help with our RPM staff and GC that whenever we get to that point, that we hold those discussions, at the same time. Obviously, bring it back to the advisory board. We may even get with the Department of State Health Services and their infectious control disease division to see if we can get their input again in this process. But there was some really good stuff in there.
Is it possible for us to get that copy?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it was public comment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that you guys have a
We
copy.
can get forwarded that.
Guys, being generic and gender-free. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Colleen, thanks.
This is just merely for you guys to know that we are going to recommend to the commission that they re-adopt the rules so that we have rules to run the program, and that we will continue to work on making the rules better, aligning the what is currently in rule to what is current practice, and I will make sure that we get the cosmetology comments to you as well.
Okay.
Questions? Concerns?
I don't.
Okay.
Anyone?
Okay.
No? All right, I think you got to pass. You got to
Thank
pass. All right. Item G. Rebecca.
Hello again, I'm Rebecca Adams with Education and Examination. I'm going to take you on a fantastic journey that is
Waiting on that
Come
fantastic
along.
voyage.
Good ride on a fantastic journey.
that is Barbering Cosmetology operating at the same location, not at the same time.
Talk about it.
So, here we go. Let's go back in time just a little bit. To Senate Bill 205 or 2065, and the 85th Texas Legislature removed the established square footage requirements for schools as stated by the commission. So the square footage went away. So on August 8th, 2018, there was a listserv that went out to everyone that wanted it, pretty much, just advising of what our requirements are. Everything is still the same as far as licensure. You still have to be a licensed barber school. You still have to be a licensed cosmetology school. It's just no operation. You could share the space, like let's say AM cosmetology, PM barbering. You just can't do it at the same time. So we just wanted to just provide some clarity to that. It's a great thing. It's going to save schools money. It's going to be a positive, I say a positive work environment for folks. The one thing that we also need to caution is there is no Classroom sharing, unfortunately, you could be dually licensed, however, you still need to, conduct your theory with your barber students, and the cosmetology will still conduct their theory with their students. We can't commingle. Just providing some clarity. It's good things coming for the industry. I think the biggest, is the savings. The savings that'll cost the industry in rent, and then it'll go back to the students, and perhaps the tuition, you'll see a difference in tuition because you're not having to pay so much in rent because you're operating two separate schools. You've got your one school where you have the same, the same equipment requirements. It's all there. So you just have to make sure that you're following, and what we kind of recommend is follow the more stringent of the rules. So, make sure you've got your copy of both if you're going to do both. Make sure that when our inspectors come in, they will be able to identify, okay, we're at a barber session now, or we're operating as a cosmetology section now. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you'll have any.
And as long as the instructors do a license, they can work in either one?
They can. Again, you just can't commingle the classes.
Right.
And Brian Francis, as long as they have both licenses.
Yes.
Right. if they're
Because there's
dual
not a
license.
dual instructor license.
No.
sorry.
They have,
And-
I'm sorry.
And trust me,
You're right.
I read some language about that just at midnight.
Yes.
So that one's fresh on my mind. So there's not a dual
Very
instructor
clear.
license.
Yes.
As long as they have both licenses.
Right.
Unless they have a cosmetology instructor license and a barber instructor
Correct.
license.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
they're absolutely fine.
As long as they're
Rebecca
not
thinks she did a great job laying it out.
teaching it at the same time.
I'm sorry?
As long as they're not teaching at the same
That
time.
is correct. That is correct.
All right.
So,
We really think that this is going to accelerate the ability of cosmetology or barber schools in high school.
Yes.
Where you have that space that's built out.
Yes.
And now not having to build out two spaces and that sort of thing. We really think this is going to help along
Yeah.
those lines, as well as in the private side
I
as
can
well.
understand what it's.
and if I could add to that, going out and doing my school visits, a lot of the responses from the high schools have been, if we could just have it in the same space where Monday, Wednesday, Friday we're cos, Tuesday, Thursday we're barber, or in some cases, morning with one group and the afternoon with the other. It's a positive thing.
It very much so is. I think that was the clarification everybody needed right there. Because, thinking about it on a broader spectrum as having a barber school or beauty school, it's like,
Sure.
whoa, how are we going to do that, But as you clarify that, that's it.
And we're here to answer questions. You can shoot emails to Shears if they have any questions.
When is
regarding-
that starting? Or has it started?
It has started. Yes, sir. It has started.
Thought so.
Mr. Jameson,
Please.
I would like to be recognized. I know that you're going to regret it, but I have some comments.
Please have a comment.
Okay. First, I have a question. Why requiring them to not be able to do it at the same time?
I can answer that. When we explored this, the last strategic planning session, it was a strategic initiative to, allow for this. And what we discovered is that the change was not statutory. It was a rule on the barbering side that prevented it being in the same place. So we took this time to go back and say, oh, it's just a rule, let's figure out how we fix that. Now, I don't know if you've been around it for a while, but the barbering and cosmetology programs have a history.
Yes.
And I'm an old man now.
It was only a semi-rhetorical question.
I'm
I
an-
appreciate you attempting to answer.
I'm an old man now. And I'm not going to run head first or take my agency head first into an unnecessary controversy. I see that too much on the national level and even the state level where people will run into a controversy when they can do the right thing and be in good stead. But we're not going to, we have 39 programs, 823,000 licensees. We're going to try to do things right, but also not try to be nuts or inflammatory. Oh, I've got this suit made of gasoline. Let me run into the fire room. We're not going to do that. So what we want to do was to honor the differences between barbering and between cosmetology and let that space be used twice and not really joust it. Now, if somebody gets the statute changed and makes it a clear statement that they can happen in both places, we will implement it to perfection. But we weren't going to run into that.
Okay, I'm not done.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that. That was a very diplomatic answer. I've just been thinking a lot about this as far as removing restrictions that are unnecessary for business owners and allowing people to operate different programs in the same space. I think is a fantastic idea for business, and not requiring it, just allowing it. So people can continue to operate their barber schools in exactly the same way they
Absolutely.
always have. But I've had some experience that's led me to think that requiring them to be at separate times might be also an unnecessary impediment. That they would not. This is a requirement. This is saying under no circumstances can you do this at the same time. So even if you have two separate classrooms, you can't have
No,
at
that-
the same time.
No, yes, you can.
Oh, okay.
What we're meaning is they can't occupy the same space. So you
Okay.
can't have a combined classroom on the theory floor together and the practical floor together. We're saying, you can walk in the lobby and you've got 2 rooms over here designated for your barber school, 2 rooms designated over here for your cosmetology, and that's fine.
Okay.
Or if while one's in the theory room, one's on the practical floor, that's not the limitation. The limitation is we just can't have you a combined classroom with, two different license types.
I see.
okay.
That does make things a lot clearer. But since we're on this fantastic journey, I believe that allowing schools the flexibility to combine barber and cosmetology students for certain lessons would not harm the integrity of the barber industry and would be beneficial to the productivity of schools as well as the education of its students. As a licensed instructor and longtime member of the Education and Curriculum Work Group for this board, I'm very familiar with the technical requirements for both barbers and cosmetologists. There are substantial overlaps between the two in theory as well as practical topics of study. What's wrong with students sitting in the same classroom learning about bacteriology, skin disorders, or chemical services at the same time? The same goes for practical hours. Why not allow students to work on perming, relaxing, and coloring as well as haircutting together? When students are exposed to different techniques, styles, and levels of ability, their learning experience can only be enriched and deepened. This goes for both barber and cosmetology students. I visited a school in Missouri that offered both barbering and cosmetology programs. At the time, they had 1 barber student and over 25 cosmetology students. It would make absolutely no sense for the school to repeat lessons at different times for that 1 barber student in subjects that are identical to those required of the cosmetology students. When your business is open to the public, you never know who's going to walk in and what they're going to want. The broader your skill set and the deeper your knowledge base, the more likely you will be to satisfy every customer who sits in your chair, whether you're a barber or a cosmetologist. Barbers and cosmetologists are not required to work together. And I'm not suggesting that schools require these programs to be at all combined. But shops are allowed to have barbers and cosmetologists working together at the same time. Why not allow the schools the same option? Thank you
It was a long
for
question.
attending my TED Talk.
It was a long question, Jim.
And as with any TED Talk, Mr. Chairman Brian Francis, they're educational. And you make incredibly valid points. There's no question about that. One of the books that we've read for our leadership group is called Decisive. And one of the elements in there is called ooching. And sometimes taking the biggest bite and saying, we have to change the whole world, as opposed to let's ooch into it. And yes, this is a step in that direction. I think it's the right step. But I mean, you're absolutely right. They're working together in shops and salons and coexisting wonderfully. And what we could learn from each other in these moments is invaluable. And it's worth considering. So thank you so much. Great points. Great points.
Got it out, huh?
Yeah, she did. Ron Weathers. Thank you, Rebecca. And Brian. You guys did a great job because that was one of the issues I had probably about 4 questions on. And I promise to God you answered each one of them. Thank you.
Outstanding.
It looks like we're moving in the right direction.
I think so.
Well, thank you, Ms. Rebecca.
Thank you.
Ray, did you want to say anything? You sure? Because it looked like you're itching.
backing up Rebecca,
All right, all
that's it.
right, all right. Okay.
Scared.
No, you did good. Okay, let's move to, we have some discussion to have about some work groups that we have. I know since the last meeting, our Ms. Connor was on a few of the work groups that we had. So Christine, did you want to elaborate on the work groups, or you want me to just take the lead on that? I have? Okay, okay. Okay, all right, okay. So what we did is we kind of repositioned some of the work groups as far as who was on them. The work groups have to have at least 2 of us on there, so.
Or only 2 of us.
Only
We
2.
can't have
Can't
three.
have 3, right. Right, so education and curriculum work group was myself, Ron Jemison Jr., and Jenny Hatch. We also have the enforcement work group, which is Ron Jemison Jr. and James Bowens. Licensing work group would be Jenny Hatch and Michelle Wasser. And I think the administrative rules and health and safety work group would be myself and.
So here's the
I need to be
thing.
with somebody.
So the discussion was is that we're going to go down to the 4 kind of main area types. So you would do an education and curriculum, an enforcement work group,
Right.
health and safety, and then a licensing work group. So you would no longer have the administrative rules work group because all
we
of those
combine it.
groups have rules.
Okay.
And then instead of that, creating and having your health and safety work group, also work with the health and safety work group of the cosmetology. I'm looking at Brian, but he's not looking at me. Health and safety work group of the cosmetology board. So
Okay.
you have
just
a
go
new
as the
member
3.
that needs to be
Right.
added into the mix. So you can go through them. Your education and curriculum asks who wants to be a part of it and
Right,
appoint.
'cause I wanna come off. Okay, okay. All right, well, let's read them again. I mean, we have education and curriculum work group. So before was myself and Miss Jenny. So if anybody, would you like to be on that group, or does anybody want to be on that work group? Or do you want to stay on the same one that you're on, Jay?
Is there a committee that you want to be on?
Because you're on the enforcement work group right now.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Would you like to be on licensing work group, or would you like to be on licensing?
I would.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful for me too if we had, this may be simple, but I would like to be even more simple, exactly what rules each committee is going to be going over. Because that's what these committees are for,
Well,
right? Is going
there'll
over
be
all the
there'll be
rules.
your education rules. That the title will tell you the rules
Okay.
that are in it. So education and curriculum will handle your education and curriculum rules. Licensing will handle licensing. Health and safety work group will handle your dot 120, I believe it is, your larger section.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis,
Yes.
keep in mind with the comments that we're about to share with you after this meeting regarding the health and safety sanitation rules, that group's going to have some heavy lifting. That's going to be a lot of work that's going to take place over the next couple of months and very worthwhile effort. So that group's going to be cranking it out. Licensing's not going to have much that's going to come to it. You're not going to have any rule or licensing changes really taking place between now unless the session brings something. So you won't have anything changing there probably till September. Enforcement could have some things. If we had any new rules, then you could have new penalty matrix and those sort of things are added to the mix. But sanitation is going to be doing some work. Enforcement could be doing some work. Licensing will probably not be doing work. Is that fair?
And that's
assessment?
fair. And then education and curriculum will also be doing a fair bit of work because you
We're
guys have been
doing a lot of
reviewing
work.
your grade. Yeah.
So we're gonna
Maybe
we'll
some,
stay there.
maybe some Austin people for health and safety.
Well, health and safety is the one that you're combining with.
Yeah, but you'll have 2 members and they'll work with the work group from CAUSE. So you'll still need 2
Okay,
members
so
on
we're gonna
that.
put 2 in the health
I
and safety.
nominate
So-
James.
Well, I know.
Mr. Chairman,
Ronald,
Carla James, TDLR.
Please, Ronald.
These
I
can be
would-
done by phone as well.
That's what I was gonna ask.
You don't
Yeah,
have
you
to
can
come
call.
in. So I certainly understand the Austin, but we
Right,
can do
right.
these by phone.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to just go down the list and just
Well,
make sure?
So
Okay.
administrative rules and health and safety work group.
That's going to be done, so we don't have
So
that.
we're out of that.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you'll have your
we
education.
So we have education curriculum work group. That will stay the same.
It's up to y'all. Do you guys want to stay?
I think we're okay with
Because
that.
it's right now, it's,
It's up to you.
I think since you're the school owner, you should be on that committee. And I've been working, I'm real familiar with it, so I'm happy to stay on that committee with you.
Yes.
Good deal, Ron and Jeff.
The enforcement work group, right now it's currently myself and James. So if, Ronald, if you want to take the
would.
lead on that one?
I would.
Or not the lead, but we'll join that group. So we'll have Ronald Weathers
okay.
and James, would you like to stay on that one? Right. Okay,
Okay.
all right. So we'll add Ronald to the enforcement work group
And we're going to remove you.
and remove Ronald
Okay.
Jr., right? And then we have, in the licensing work group, we have Jenny Hatch and Miss Michelle Wacer. I said it wrong. You want to stay that way? We're good?
Yes.
You sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you
So,
still have health and
I
safety.
have one more?
Yes,
Keep saying
which
it.
is your largest one, so it's going to be your most heavy lifting, and currently it's Mr. Bowens and Ms. Wasser. So do you want to change that or keep
Right, you
that?
got rid of the administrative roles, but now you're
Okay.
just gonna have
It's
the
just
health
right
and
here,
safety.
right? That's right.
work group.
But I'm on it by myself right now?
No, it's Mr. Bowens and Ms. Wasser.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay. I don't see it. I'm confused.
Oh,
Maybe that's why. I'm reading something different. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at it.
Mine says Ron Jemison. And I keep looking at my name on there going, I don't want to be on this one again.
You can change it whoever you need to.
Well, see, that's why I was confused with what you were saying. I'm sorry.
So you have,
See, it's
Mr.
the top.
Jefferson, just decide which T you want on there.
Just choose.
Okay, no problem.
You get to appoint.
And
Michelle
this,
James.
again, this, Brian Francis, this
what I
committee,
was gonna
this
put
work
it.
group will be working in conjunction with this same counterpart for the cosmetology work group.
You know what? I'm gonna work on that one. I'm gonna stay on that. So we're gonna do Ron Jemison Jr. and Michelle.
Okay.
And that's on the safety and health.
Health and safety, yes, sir.
Health and safety, okay.
I'll still give myself some more work, but it's okay. We got it?
So,
You wanna reiterate it?
Do you want me to reread them?
yeah,
Okay. So education and curriculum, I have Ron Jemison and Jenny Hatch. Enforcement, I have Ron Weathers and James Bowens. Health and safety, I have Ron Jemison and Michelle Wasser. And licensing, I have Jenny Hatch and Michelle Wasser. Goodness gracious.
You got it?
I do.
do you feel left out, James? Do you wanna be on another committee?
You good? Always help out. No, after once somebody drops out.
Okay,
Okay, we good?
okay.
All right. Thank you.
Colleen, thank you. Good job.
Well, yeah. I don't want to talk about what we discussed already. We did discuss that. Okay. Agenda item I is, for the next meeting. So do we have any dates for the next meeting?
Mr. Chairman, we're looking at a date in 2019, so after.
After July?
After January. Or January or thereon.
I'm playing.
But, our staff will contact you guys.
Throw us some dates out around
and-
that time?
And give you some alternative
It'll
dates.
be
for you
late
guys.
January, you think? Or early February, maybe? Because I know y'all in legislation.
Do you, Colleen, Train Assistant General, do you want us just to contact you after holidays to see where everybody is? Or do you want to go ahead and set one?
Yeah, that's.
No, I think that'd be good. Just contact us after we have a Merry Christmas. Mhm. Okay, after we pay some taxes. All right.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, Carla James,
Yes, ma'am.
TDLR, you may want to go ahead and add any kind of work group updates to the agenda.
Yes.
And then
For next
they can all,
meeting,
they
yes.
can always be removed if the work groups haven't had a chance to visit.
So we will, let's go ahead and, you want to make a motion for that?
Yes.
Do we need to vote on agenda
I have to
items
make
for the next meeting?
a
No.
motion for that, right? Okay. So, next meeting, we want to add to the agenda, that we want to discuss the work groups, okay? And we also want to continue, discussing more about the, education curriculums. I know Jenny and I have been in some good talks about that so far. With the education division, it's been going very well. We've sat through some demos and things of that nature, so it's looking kind of positive on that, I would say. We're getting some work done, I'll put it that way. All right. We appreciate everybody coming today to the meeting. I know it's been raining a little bit, and until next time, we'll see you again. The meeting will be adjourned. Out of here.